everyone, Jigs VL here with a brand new movie review, but also still continuing my first experience when it comes to watching movies like Terminator Parts 2, 3, and 4, known as Salvation, in which is one of the biggest bad eggs out of this bunch. I can actually strongly agree why Part 2 is actually a really well made movie. I actually have not much to say about it by any means, people. But before getting into this, I hate to go back and forth here. This may happen in the throughout this whole video, but just to paraphrase this, if you are wondering or what my thoughts are on the first Terminator movie, without uh, uh, having prior knowledge and getting into this one, I highly suggest into checking out my first time watching uh, video when it comes to like talking about the first Terminator movie, the first Wolverine movie, and the Back to the Future trilogy. It's all in one singular video that I will provide in the link description or in the comment section for you guys to check out. I would highly advise checking that first before going into this one. Now, let's get into the review talking about Terminator 3 and 4, right? So it seems like Terminator 3 and 4 decided to trying to shift the tone and atmosphere and especially the overall messaging when it comes to the first two movies. So yeah, I hate to say this. I wish to have my own opinion, but I can actually strongly agree, and I can actually see why the first two movies look like a complete package from beginning to end. But when it comes to having a good start by having a conclusion, uh, and especially having a specific atmosphere, tone, and messaging. Those are very important key aspects that I am trying to pinpoint. All right. So going into Terminator 3 and Terminator 4, heck, rewatching Terminator 4 because just to give you guys this context, I seen Terminator Salvation back when it was first released, and oh boy, it seems like the year 2009 was not a good year for movies because two in particular, like the infamous Driggable Evolution and the likes of Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. As much as I like Revenge of the Fallen, it did not have a constructive story. It was all messy. The action was cool, but I at least enjoyed it. I don't know, but yeah. It was a very strange time right there, right? All I could say with Terminator Salvation, I thought it was boring and confusing. Emphasis on the confusing part, probably because I never watched the first three movies at all, unless you want me to count the Terminator 2 3D ride slash movie back at Universal Studios, uh, in which I had a good time, but I have vague memories of it, so I don't think I can entirely count it here. So yeah, um, now going into Terminator 3 and 4, oh boy, not gonna lie, Terminator 3. While I did enjoy the movie a lot, it was actually pretty fun to watch. Uh, Heck, it was more action packed than the last two movies. While that may be somehow a good thing for some people, for me, I'm a fan of movies, and especially when they are giving a proper direction. This one here is trying to be a little bit more goofy than the last two. You get to see Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator freaking tell off a male stripper to take off his clothes, and then he's trying to put on the star sunglasses, in which he's like, nah, screw that. I'm gonna go take this random truck that conveniently has a shotgun. So yeah, it's that kind of movie, and especially that you see a female Terminator, and how John Connor phrased it best, an anti-Terminator Terminator. In which I'm like, okay then, that is new, I suppose, because we haven't seen the female Terminator in the first two movies up until the third one, right? Uh, but of course, having that goofy, silly aspects, she increased her bosoms. But before seeing that, yeah, you do get to see her nude, but it's not like somehow in your face by any means. I was like, okay, we got like a 10 out of 10 movie. Great, I'm done reviewing. But not, it's not like that, okay? Like jokes aside though, yeah, like with when it comes to shifting a tone and atmosphere, it makes me go all like this right now, like make me scratch my head. I'm like, okay then, so where's the ominous and horror factors here? Oh, the female Terminator, she jabbed her arm right through a police officer's chest just to drive. I I I guess that would be creepy and freak you out, but man, it takes you out of it when this movie is going for a much more sillier and a slightly more sillier, right? Just slightly more and more action-packed oriented movie than the last two movies. Yeah, when it comes to the last two movies, they do give off a tiny bit more of a ominous vibe, and with a slight bit of horror factor, which I do kind of really appreciate. It was a well balanced movies. Here, this is not balanced at all by any means. So yeah, I can see why Terminator 3 is a complete mixed bag. Like it's serviceable, and it makes you do care for the characters like John Connor himself. Not gonna lie, I was not too big on the female character, like his future, yeah, John Connor's future wife, in which oh, before getting more talking about her, she has a fiance and a father, and the father works in the for the government or military, whatever, right? But the moment I saw her fiance, I was like, let me guess, she's gonna get killed. He is gonna get killed off, right? Her fiance, and guess what happens in the movie? He gets killed off, and so I'm like, why even bother? You know, I guess to give her some more, just to give more character, I suppose. And you do feel more sorry for her, uh, when her own father dies. All right, uh, and then I'm supposed to believe that they postponed Judgment Day. Yeah, that is a huge retcon right there. Not kidding. Because in Terminator 2, the whole point, heck, the whole point from parts 1 and 2 is to change the future, right? And that like you can write your own destiny, write out your own destiny. But with parts 3 and 4, though, yeah, I'm not kidding. And part 4 makes this going hard. But yeah, 3 and 4, it's about like fulfilling the destiny, your destiny, yeah, fulfilling your destiny and accepting the future. Yeah, yeah, completely disregard what happens in the first two movies, and that just happens. You gotta be kidding me! Like, holy crap! Holy crap! But yeah, and especially on how Terminator 3 ends, it did make me feel a lot more conflicted than it should. I was like, okay, then the ending does feel refreshing, but at the same time, though, I'm like, there's gonna be another one, and that other one was Salvation. And yet, considering the tone for this movie that they shift to, they decided to shift back when it comes to part 4. But before getting into part 4, just let you know, at least with the actor playing as John Connor, uh, I thought he was actually pretty good on when it comes to portraying the character. He actually makes me feel like he is John Connor. Of course, they had to regress his character for part 3, but of course he gets some character development, and I'm like, okay, then, like his character is flowing very well. Not kidding when I say that. But now getting into part 4, Salvation, and remember that when I say that my opinion slightly changed. Well, it's no longer confusing. It's just purely boring. But there are just small redeeming factors, just small. But let me definitely get out of a couple of cons. Okay, so when it comes to shifting the tone and atmosphere, they decided to go back into being serious, and I'm like, okay, uh, I make it sound like it's a bad thing, right? And I'm like, well, it's only a bad thing when you change a character completely, when it doesn't come off as that said character that we've seen in the last two movies. Yeah, when it comes to John Connor himself, it, having a lot of personality, what makes John Connor not just showing a picture of his own mother and listening to his own mother on the radio. No, you get freaking generic soldier guy being portrayed by Christian Bale. And no diss on the guy by any means. He's a good actor. But man, whoever wrote the script to be somehow John Connor does not feel like John Connor. I understand that they want to go for a more serious approach just to like cater to the fans, which is good, but it's not handled well because they shift the tone to part three, which is more action packed and a little silly, and then to somehow completely change John Connor altogether, who is just barking orders. He's just and keep on saying that like must fulfill destiny. Gotta save my father who doesn't know he's my father or whatever. I know he didn't really say those exact words by any means, but that's just my way to exaggerate the very fundamental problems I have with the movie. It really hand-fists that whole fulfill destiny schlock, and I'm just like, how could that even happen? So yeah, the whole like trying to be serious thing is poorly executed. All right, but aside from that, and especially aside from like changing John Connor completely, what are the good parts from this? Obviously, the cinematography, the action is actually pretty good, and surprisingly so. I thought Sam Worthington's character, I forgot the name. My goodness gracious, I'm sorry, guys, but anywho, I thought his character was a little bit more interesting than the main character himself. How can you goof that up? You're supposed to focus on the main character, not a side character. And it should have been a completely different movie if a side character has a much more compelling character arc than the main character that we're supposed to care about. I don't care about generic soldier. I care about Sam Worthington's character. Like that's where the investment and the jarring aspect just goes like blown out of proportion. It's so jarring to me that it just takes me out that like that it should be a completely different movie. I mean like having the idea of like, hey, this guy he did something bad. So he's about to be executed, but of course, apparently his body has been taken somewhere and by Skynet, and yet he is so unaware of his old memories, in his own motivations, his own actions. He's not like a cyborg or a Terminator uh, from Skynet. Like he is just trying to follow his own instincts, and yet he was totally unaware that like, wait a minute, I'm a freaking robot. Like, how the hell did that happen? And yet he's trying to find some questions and answers, and then he meets one of John Connor's comrades, and which gives him a little bit more character, give him more development growth. And I thought that chemistry between that actress, whoever did that character, whoever she was, with Sam Worthington's character, I thought it was done well. If I'm being honest, and then seeing like, of course, John Connor's father, uh, is that like okay? Then I actually kind of like this character too. You do see some redeeming aspects, but it does not hit you that much because of how boring the movie can be. It's not confusing. There's some sort of investment here, but then the movie will take you out to to remind you about John Connor. Let me listen to my mother's voice. Let me look at my mother's picture. And I'm like, just because you have those does not make you John Connor. Can't you at least look like John Connor? At least? Can't they find a different actor? Because, like, I'm sorry, again, Christian Bale is a good actor, but apparently he's not suitable to be a John Connor character, and especially with the script. I blame both, mostly the script. Mostly the script. and to see if Christian Bale can actually pull that off. Apparently, he can only pull off generic soldier, is what the script was. All right, so yeah, I really cannot defend Terminator Salvation because I can definitely see why it's not a good film. Yeah, it has good action. At least there's some redeeming qualities, just only some. But man, when you're supposed to care for a main character, now we care. I care more about the side character, and which should have been a different movie, a separate movie, if I'm being honest. So, yeah. Oh boy. So that's all I have to say when it comes to Terminator 3 and Salvation. And what is my ranking for the both of them? Well, Terminator 3, it's at least average. It's at least average. Uh, when it comes to Terminator Salvation, it's close to being either bad or just a-okay or alright. It's around that area. So yeah, that's all I had to say. I'm not too sure if I really want to watch Terminator Genesis or Dark Fate because I heard those movies didn't turn out so well. Maybe I should avoid him like the plague or pray for me. This has been Jigsby. I'll saying off right now. Later.